Access to data poses a unique situation for the laws governing competition in Australia. In this video, we will explain how access to essential platforms can be facilitated through application programming interfaces, or APIs. We will show how access has traditionally been regulated in Australia and how it could be regulated through the use of APIs.
Let's begin with when access is necessary. The need for access arises where a natural monopoly or bottleneck facility exists. These occur when it's more efficient for only one supplier to exist in an essential market. Examples of this can be seen in airports, electricity, railways and telecommunications. The problem these situations create is that while it's more efficient to have only one supplier, there is a risk that monopolists would be able to charge exorbitant prices at the expense of the consumer and economic efficiency. Let's take, for example, your local airport. There are probably not enough people flying through your city to pay for 2 or 3 airports. However, it is still important that the airlines are able to access the airport without excessive costs. Otherwise, you might be left with high ticket prices or worse, no flight options at all. This is why regulating access to essential facilities is so important.
Let's now turn to how access has traditionally been regulated. In Australia, competition laws have been developed to mandate access to essential facilities. This is done through the use of access regimes under Parts 3A and 11C of the Competition and Consumer Act. Access regimes enable third parties to access bottleneck infrastructure on terms and conditions determined by the ACCC. This includes a determination on price. Third parties can seek access to infrastructure services through a number of mechanisms under the Act, including a declaration and arbitration, access undertakings, and the certification of effective state access regimes. These mechanisms ensure that third parties seeking to access essential facilities are treated fairly and not subject to the anti-competitive actions of the monopolist.
When thinking of an online platform, you might consider Facebook or Google as prime examples. However, there are other online platforms that are crucial to your everyday life, like in banking, healthcare, education, and transportation. Access to these platforms, and specifically access to their data, has traditionally been limited by the companies that make them. This leads to a net deficit both to the economy and society. In light of this deficit, countries around the world have begun regulatory reforms that seek to improve access to these essential facilities.
One way to guarantee access to online platforms is through application programming interfaces, or APIs. APIs are a set of functions and procedures used to allow two different software programs to interact in different ways. It allows the two to communicate with each other quickly, efficiently, and reliably. To understand this, let's take a look at the classic example of ordering at a restaurant. In this scenario, the waiter takes information from the customer to the kitchen on what kind of food to make. The menu provides a list of set options the customer can choose from. In this way, the customer and the kitchen are analogous to two different computing software, relying on the waiter, or the API, to transfer information between them. Often, APIs are limited to a set list of capabilities, similar to a menu. In practice, APIs allow data to be shared between organizations without the need to manually transfer data or directly connect to the source code. This has allowed developers to automatically access real-time data in a safe and efficient way to create new and innovative products.
Now that we know what APIs are, let's take a look at 2 ways in which they can be used as a regulatory tool to guarantee access to online platforms. One way is through the traditional mechanism of an access regime. Under such a regime, the supplier of the online platform has an obligation to create and provide access to a standardized API. Access would be offered on a transparent and non-discriminatory basis. If requested to do so by a qualified access seeker, the access provider must A. Supply access to the API, B. Take all reasonable steps to ensure the technical and operational quality of the API, and C. Take all reasonable steps to ensure that the access seeker receives fault detection, handling and rectification of a technical and operational quality and timing that is equivalent to that which the access seeker provides to itself. Another way to regulate access using APIs can be seen in the consumer data right. The consumer data right is operating in the financial services sector and will be used in energy and telecommunications over the coming months. The consumer data right allows sensitive consumer data to be read and sent to an accredited third party at the request of the consumer. Similar to an access regime, all participants in a consumer data right industry are required to supply access to certain types of data through APIs. These API standards resulted from collaboration between a data standards body and industry professionals, making them not only quick, safe and efficient, but also flexible enough to grow with technological innovation. Under the consumer data right, access seekers must be qualified through an accreditation process managed by the relevant government authority, ensuring transparent and fair terms of access. Both an API access regime and the consumer data right provide guidance into how regulations can be modernised to use APIs to guarantee access to essential facilities like online platforms in a safe, efficient and extensible way.